This meeting of FMburgh was filmed in front of a live studio audience.
Yeah, so I think we got everybody. So I guess turn it over to you, Todd and Ernest, and get us rolling.
I guess let me start by asking, just for a show of hands or a vote in some way, how many people use one of the chat apps, ChatGPT or Claude Desktop, or an AI coding agent?
Both of them.
Grok, mostly Grok.
Yeah, Grok too.
Okay. I ask this a lot because I'm just watching as the number of people who haven't tried it go down. It is a few months ago, there was still a lot of people who'd never really tried AI, or they had and they tried it a year ago and it wasn't that impressive. It was pretty good if you're using really good coding editors, maybe as far back as 2 years ago, not for FileMaker, but for other kinds of coding. Two or 3 years ago with GitHub Copilot first, and then Cursor and Windsurf and a few others. But it really changed in December of 2025, where things seemed to turn a corner, and it became something that I only did mostly coding to something that I pretty much use a coding agent or a chat agent for pretty much everything. So I don't go to a lot of apps anymore. I usually just ask Claude to connect to something and get me information. I prefer that. It seems like a nicer flow. It's a thing. It really happened. And one of the things that drove us to what we're going to show tonight is that coding worked really well if you're writing TypeScript or some other kind of coding language, and it didn't work great with FileMaker. I tried a few things. We have FMVibex, which will code FileMaker scripts for you a little bit, and you can copy and paste stuff in. And we shipped that about 18 months ago or something like that. But it didn't get close to what I was able to do with, say, Cursor or Claude Code. And so it was very frustrating. Another thing that we were doing at this time, actually going back a long, long way, was using the FileMaker web viewer object, which we just heard from Rick was his first thing getting into FileMaker. And I think I gave my first talk on the FileMaker web viewer that DevCon when it was released. And I just thought it was an amazing thing. And it was a little crippled in that we were still using the Internet Explorer, like Safari, early Safari, lots of browser war stuff. And it was really difficult to develop on for a long time. But we did. We shipped things in the web viewer. We had GoSign, which was shipped before FileMaker Go had signature capture. In fact, I remember Rick Kalman calling me, nice enough to give me a courtesy call to tell me that they were going to ship signature capture in FileMaker Go. And he was nice enough to call me because he knew I had a product that people were paying me for it to do signature capture. I don't know if you remember that, Rick, but actually
I do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So we've been doing the web viewer stuff for a long time. But when the AI stuff really started to take off, especially in the last 3 to 6 months, we really wanted to take it to another level. And so that's what we're going to show tonight, which is ProofKit version 2. But before we do, I'm going to give Ernest a chance to have a few words. I think he's got some ideas about the moment we're in and what we're faced with and what the opportunities are.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. I'm curious how many of you are actually developing apps outside of FileMaker using a coding agent? Anyone's built a whole thing end to end?
Just bits and pieces.
Bits and pieces, maybe, yeah. It's an interesting experience, and I think it's worth trying and trying to see how far you get. Because I think the way I'm framing this moment is something like this. One way to think about where we are is that AI is here to help us write code faster as humans, right? Meaning you use AI as a way of assisting your development. You get answers from it. You take those answers and you then write the code as humans, or design the database, or design the UI or whatnot. Right? I think that's the wrong way of thinking about what's happening, right? The way the world has shifted is that agents are now basically writing all the code that matters. And humans are mostly operators of the agents that write the code. And that's the inflection point that we are at. And that's where things have changed or flipped. Right. And I call this moment the agentic development moment. And this is profoundly important because agents can work much faster, more deeply, and more critically than humans can. This is, at least in the coding space. It may not be good at everything yet, but in terms of programming, it is good. It's better than me, for sure. And it's more capable and more complete and can do things at a much deeper scale and doesn't go to sleep, and you can orchestrate it, and you can spin up multiple agents working on multiple things. And so we are at a whole different way of thinking about how we build things today. And most of my work today is not about writing code. It's about designing. It's about creating systems that allow agents to actually go to work and do their thing. It's not that you are no longer required to be an engineer or to be literate in what you're trying to do. You absolutely do. I think the better you are, the better quality work product that you're going to create. But the point is, agents are doing that work, the actual work of committing your ideas and expressing them as code, right? And I want this framing to be at the heart of what we're talking about, because there are really two economies happening. There is the old economy, where humans are doing the work, and then there is the AI agentic economy, where agents are doing the work. And we actually have to decide which economy you want to participate in. I think that is the core question, right? So my concern and the opportunity that I see for FileMaker is that we can actually take that leap too, provided a few things are possible, provided we can also use agents to write software on the platform that we care about so much. And people often ask me, oh, Ernest, if agents can write code, why do we need FileMaker? If you can write in TypeScript and React, build stuff, you deploy to Superbase, what's the point? Just bring whatever, right? And I think the answer to that is, as it turns out, complexity is a problem. When you let agents go to town and you have to manage the entire stack by yourself, the surface area of complexity and change and security vulnerabilities just go asymptotical. It becomes so difficult to manage that the most sensible thing to do is to try to pick the right areas of focus that you can to pay attention to the right things so that you're not basically running around and fixing issues all the time. And we run into this constantly today. It's been an explosion of issues, and we have an infra team and a hosting team, and we're constantly running around trying to deal with server issues, CVEs, and bugs that people are trying to create, and with AI and so forth. So it's a double-edged sword, right? On the one hand, you want access to this agentic power, but on the other hand, you don't want to inherit all the problems that come with it, all the issues that come with it in terms of maintenance and making that also a job that you have to do, right? And so anyway, I'm rambling on a little bit, but I think this framing is really important, because what we're trying to show you is not how to use AI to make us a better, a faster FileMaker developer as humans. What we're really showing you is how we're using AI to be the agents to actually build the things that we want built. Now, there's some limitations today in FileMaker that we hope those barriers can come down over time. But with the web viewer, even today, with the stack that we have and the capabilities we have in market today, we can do a lot. And this is what I'm excited about. Back to you, Todd.
Yeah, AI is good at writing code. It's also really good at cracking software and causing security issues. And so the open web stacks are getting bombarded with security issues all the time. And it's a big problem. And this is where, if you don't know very much about the systems you're working in, you're really at risk, because you're shipping things that might be easier to crack, and stuff is getting cracked all the time now. So one of the advantages you have with FileMaker is you have a system you already understand in terms of its security profile. You understand how privilege sets work. You understand how passwords work. You already understand that. And if you move off of that and go somewhere else, you have a whole new thing to learn, besides security of everything else to learn. So one of our key motivators here is to find a way to stay within the systems that we and our customers already understand, while being able to take advantage of the incredible power that agentic coding brings to the table. So that's really important. Yes, is it easier to migrate off of FileMaker completely than it ever was before? Sure. It's still very risky, and you can get a lot of the benefits of agentic coding without leaving. And I think that's just really important to know. Any questions or issues before we dive into some demos and things? Anybody have any pushback or things they're worried about? You're all convinced AI is the future?
I don't totally think it's the future, and I'm hoping that's my future. Because right now I'm sitting there with nothing, no options, so I'm hoping this is the future.
Let me talk about that just real quick as you get spun up here, Todd. I hear this a lot, which is something like AI is going to take all of our jobs away. And I think for a category of people, that is probably going to be true. AI is going to replace some jobs, right? But we were never actually really programmers as FileMaker developers.
No.
We're problem solvers, right? We picked a platform that allowed us to focus on the heart of the problem, which is the business problem, the use case, or the issue that we need to deal with at work. And it just so happened to be the tool that allowed us to get to that as quickly as possible without having to spin up 2,000 lines of Python code or TypeScript or whatever, right?
SQL.
Or a SQL for that matter, right? So in a weird way, we have come full circle back to this moment where the problem solver is more important than ever. And in my experience, there is not ever a shortage of problems to solve. You fix one, there's another one around the corner. And you fix that one, there's another one around the corner. So I think there's going to be some lag and things are going to need to get caught up. But that is really my core belief, that I think the opportunities are immense, and we need to just reframe the value that we bring to the world again.
That's a great segue. Who remembers that first hit of adrenaline when they built something in FileMaker and realized that they could run an entire business using this platform or something like that? Who remembers that hit and how powerful that was? That's what AI feels like to me in terms of what it is giving me back. And so one of the ways we talk about this and with ProofKit is build like anything is possible again. It has been, at least for me, it has been a long time since I have been happy with parts of the Claris platform in terms of I wanted it to do more, right? And particularly the place where I struggled the most in terms of what I imagined to what I created was layouts. Layouts are pretty rough in FileMaker. There's only the limited set of widgets you have, and everything else after that is some kind of weird trick that you had to invent, and maybe, hopefully, your team will remember in 5 years, right? What we've done with ProofKit is we've made it possible to build UIs inside of FileMaker without using layout mode anymore. I should say layout mode to design the user experience. The layouts are still important for script access and for data API access and for things like that. But in terms of the user experience, we just don't do it. If we have a choice to go with a greenfield project in FileMaker, we don't build UI layouts anymore. We only build them with web viewers. And so if you don't know web technology, that can be a bit challenging to get started at this day and age and with AI. The good news is AI will make it easier, way easier for you. In fact, that's like the final unlock that happened this December. We've been building in web viewers for a decade, but it remained limited to people who already got skilled in web technologies to do it. What AI did is it basically, another way to say it, frankly, is that AI killed the low code, no code movement. There is no low code or no code movement anymore. It's AI. And so for FileMaker, in our case, that's an advantage because we can get going again inside of a platform we understand with the full power of the web platform embedded in it. So this is ProofKit. I'm going to run through a setup of it and do a couple of quick demos and let it cook for a while, and we'll talk while that's happening. But again, just to be clear, we're talking about a user interface. We're not talking about coding scripts or tables at this point. There are hacks to do some of this stuff, but really it's still very hacky. But when it comes to the UI, when it comes to things that people look at, this can be completely agentically coded, and it works really great. So I'm going to start by downloading for this platform an installer. And what this installer is going to do is we'll start with the install and connect guides. And it walks us through what we have to do. What we're going to do is we're going to install an MCP server, a plugin, and a FileMaker add-on, which together create the full capability for something like Claude Code to work inside of a web viewer in FileMaker and kind of make that whole process seamless. So the plugin, the installer is downloaded. Here it is. I'm just going to run it real quick. So the other things you need before you get this far, and it's up a little bit on the page, is you will have to install Node.js. We have instructions on that. And you will need to have a coding editor or a coding agent. If you haven't chosen one yet, I highly recommend Claude as the place to start. It's going to be the most powerful, most friendly to get going. Codex is good. Cursor is good. Grok doesn't have a coding agent itself yet, although they did just agree to possibly buy Cursor for $60 billion later this year. So maybe they will, but pick one of, I would pick one of the three: Claude, Cursor, or Codex. And those are all installed already. And of course I have FileMaker. So let me just go ahead and install that. I got to enter my password here. Let's do an installation. How many people have heard of the term MCP, Model Context Protocol?
Yep.
So that's part of what we're doing here. We've installed a Model Context Protocol server on our system, on our desktop. And I'm going to open up a FileMaker demo. Oops, I've already got one open. Oh, I closed it again. Here we go. I've got a simple demo file. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to walk through these instructions. I'm going to open the FileMaker file. ProofKit works on any open FileMaker file when it's on a server or on a desktop, doesn't matter. I'm going to add the add-on. So if I go into layout mode and I click install add-on, I should see this ProofKit add-on. I'm going to click that. And what that's going to do is it's going to put in a bunch of layouts and a bunch of scripts here, which are necessary to do a lot of the magic we're going to show here in a second. Once that's in, I'm going to enable the plugin or make sure that it is enabled under File Settings, Plugins, ProofKit. It's already enabled. And then the final thing I'm going to do is run this script. It's in the menu. It's one of the things the add-on installed, connect to MCP. So what I'm doing here is basically saying, hey, this file is open and available to an MCP server to connect to. And the MCP server is able to read all the metadata out of the file that it needs. It's also able to edit records, create records, and upload the HTML that's going to be the web viewer payload that gets displayed in a web viewer in a little bit. So that's done. Let me open up Claude Code or Claude here. I'm going to start. So Claude has three modes: chat, cowork, and code. We're going to end in code, but we're going to start in chat. It's an easy place to get going. And what I'm going to do, go back to the instructions. I'm just going to copy this suggested prompt and I'm going to plop it in here. And what we're trying to do is create a happy path. So if you're new to this, if you follow these steps, you should get to success. You should start to experience some of this power and magic. So it's found that there's a CRM demo file open. It's now found a bunch of layouts. It makes a couple of judgment calls about it, just gives you some insights. Note I'm using Opus 4.7, which is the strongest model. Opus 4.6 is probably better, actually. 4.7 is a bit weird, feels a little bit like a regression to some of us. But 4.6 is very good. 4.7 is good too. They are expensive. So if you have a limited Claude subscription, you're going to want to keep this to Opus 4.6 or 4.7 to a minimum. But I would recommend at the beginning you start with the expensive models, because you won't make as many mistakes and you'll get farther. Later on, as you understand how these things work, you can start to use the simpler model or the less powerful models. The way the MCP system works is it installs tools. And so if I look at my connectors, I've got a ProofKit MCP here, and it has a whole bunch of tools. So these are the tools that Claude uses to connect to the file and do a whole bunch of things. Right? So that's how that works. So the next thing I'm going to do is, still in chat mode, I'm just going to ask it some questions about my data. Actually, first, why don't I just say, show me an ERD diagram of this file. And it'll be able to make us a nice ERD showing everything. I can zoom in on it, see what else it says down here. Yeah, so it's looking at a bunch of stuff. You can blow this up. You can zoom in on stuff. You can drag stuff around. You can drag individual tables around, whatever you want. But it's just an example of like how it's getting the context out of the file. Claude has built into it a really good graphing engine and visualizer. So let's just do a quick demo of that. Make me a sales dashboard with some graphs and charts. I'm using Super Whisper to voice prompt, which is if I'm not in a room with a bunch of people, that's usually how I code now, is I just talk. And so I use a voice to text AI to do that. And it's just really great. There's a few different versions. There's a few different apps out there that do this. I like Super Whisper. There's a bunch of others. Now, we did something about a year ago. We shipped, I don't know, maybe 8 months ago, we shipped Proof Chat, which was basically an attempt to build a Claude-like experience inside of FileMaker. And although it works, and it does a lot of the same things we're showing here, we realized pretty quickly that it was going to be very tough to compete with Claude in terms of what it can do. And because Claude is adding tools all the time, and it can build beautiful graphs and charts and anything that you want. And so it just seemed this is going to be hard for us to try to beat them when they're worth $1 trillion or whatever. And so right within the UI, you can see it starts to put together a nice graph and chart, bunch of charts and graphs that'll fill in here as we go without me having to do much. I'm just talking to it. So let me stop there. Any questions or uncertainty about what's happening so far in terms of how the pieces are fitting together?
So far, it's impressive. I'm excited.
Yeah, I still get goosebumps when I see this every day because I know how much time building something like this would take by hand, right?
It's interesting because the first time I started playing with this, and it would do these phenomenal dashboards and reports, and I was calibrated to performance in FileMaker, but then I forgot, oh, wait a minute. I would have had to build that report first, and that would have taken me hours and hours, if not days. And now I'm complaining about waiting 5 minutes for it to do stuff that I could never do in FileMaker.
Yeah.
And I just recalibrated myself and said, holy crap.
Yeah, that's right. The savings are actually in multiple dimensions, right?
Yeah.
A, you're not writing the HTML, the web code. B, you're not writing the structure in FileMaker to make this happen. And C, you're not mocking the data up to push into this thing that you're building. This is live. This is literally coming from the FileMaker file itself.
I mean,
All of it.
Isn't this exponentially better than what Tableau's ever done?
Oh,
Yeah.
Tableau is dead.
Yeah, there's no Tableau.
Okay.
There's no business intelligence platforms, really.
Yeah.
They're-
This is all BI.
yeah,
Or
they're all-
Yeah.
Isn't okay? Yeah, this is
But-
unbelievable.
But this
Yeah.
is the thing, guys. You drop ProofKit in today, you can go and sell BI skills all day.
Yeah.
It just basically works.
Yeah. So this is all in chat mode. And so chat mode has all these beautiful visualizers, and it also has this ERD that we built and added to it.
Right.
But it isn't something you can put inside a FileMaker. This is just built into the chat, right? Still very useful, even for people who just want a way to look up their sales data or whatever, right? Again, this is why I don't tend to go to applications as much anymore. I tend to just build little dashboards and little tools that I can just expose into Claude in some way or another. And then boom, you can get a lot of the benefits from it, right?
Hey, Todd, can you flip over to the FileMaker side just to validate that we're not talking out of our butts here? This is
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I have these summaries anywhere. So
Maybe
Last
just
month.
pull up a name of a customer and
Okay, so McDermott and Hill. Let's find McDermott. Oh, I deleted that find script. Shows you how much I used that demo file. Let's just do.
sorry to take you off script here. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I just want to make sure that this is not smoke and mirrors. We're literally connected to the FileMaker file. And this can be coming off your server, your FileMaker server. This can be local on a desktop. It doesn't matter because we're literally connecting to the file that you have opened. So it inherits all the permissions that you already have to that file.
Right. Yeah. So this is what I was saying about security, right? You're just using FileMaker security here. You're not having to make an authenticated data API request or have a separate, different kind of authentication into the system to get the data. The FileMaker file is open. And so the assumption is that if you've opened the file, you have access to it, whatever privilege set you have access to.
Yeah.
So we're just using the built-in FileMaker security, all the security layers that are built into FileMaker. If you're doing something like security by obscurity in FileMaker, where you only let people go to layouts that they have access to, but they have access to all the data,
But we
then
won't
they're
be
gonna be
doing
able
that
to do
here
that.
because Stephen Blackwell.
But nobody
is
does
here,
that
so-
because
yeah,
Stephen
right.
Blackwell's
That's right.
in this group, right?
Uh,
And just like, it's not really magic here. What's happening is in one of the scripts that we put in is execute SQL. And so the agents can construct SQL if they have really good metadata, if they know what the structure of the FileMaker file is. We've got a pretty good prompt to making SQL and make that work. And so then it just calls and does SQL queries to get that data. And then it just uses that in the dashboard that it's making.
yeah, and I know most of you are probably wondering by now, connecting dots, and maybe you're asking, well, this is great, but what I really want is that dashboard inside of my FileMaker file.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go to the next step here, which is we're going to switch over to code mode. And let me just delete this old one here. And I'm going to, so in code mode, we are now going to do web development. So we've gone step one where we're just connecting up the ProofKit to the FileMaker file, and we're just chatting over the data and inspecting it and getting some stuff. Now we are actually going to make a web application that will run inside of FileMaker. To do that, we actually need a folder on our desktop to put that code. The agents work in folders. So you need to give an agent an access to a folder so it can start to do all the things that it needs to do, right? Does that make sense? So let me pick, I think I've got a folder here on my desktop demo. We'll go inside of here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say, set up a ProofKit web viewer app in this folder. I got to trust the workspace because we're giving the agent access to a folder. So it's now going to be able to create files and do whatever it needs to do within that folder. So we're going to trust it. So now what's going to happen here is the MCP server and ProofKit and all our tools get together and decide how to set up a web viewer application in the way that we have spent 15 years developing. So we know exactly how it needs to get it set up, and we know exactly how to set these up properly. So that's all baked in. So once you give it this prompt, it's now going to do this, and I'm just approving the prompts that or the tools that it wants to use. So here it goes. It's just working through the whole thing. And it's going to, this could take a little bit. So another opportunity to ask questions if anybody has any.
One thing I'll say is that if you're trying this on your own, just be aware that you may run out of tokens if you're on the most basic, not pro plan.
Yeah, and if you've been using it for a while,
Yeah, I've
that
been
day
using it for a
already.
while.
Yeah.
So the basic program of Claude,
Yeah, the Claude $20 a month
yeah,
plan
20 a
doesn't
month.
give you a lot of Opus 4.7.
yeah, it gives you 45 minutes worth of work.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know what? It's expensive. I get it, but I think
it's worth it.
It's worth the $100 plan at least. I'm running a $200 plan for both Claude and Cursor, and I don't run into limits because I have both of them. I can trade off back and forth. But a lot of our team uses a $100 plan, and it's not a problem. They usually can get through their days with that without too much difficulty.
Okay.
So it's now setting up the repo, and now we've given a bunch of context to the agent to tell it what to do. and we've given it a bunch of deterministic tests it can run to make sure that it's setting up the project properly. And so that's what it's doing here. And so sometimes you just got to let this thing cook.
And most coding, agentic coding projects really succeed or fail because of this part. Getting the environment set up is really critical so that you are not doing guesswork later and the agents know what to do and so forth.
How often does it run through the process and then run out of credits and then stop in the middle of it?
In a fresh session,
You'll probably be okay.
You'll be fine, yeah, for the most part. But if you want to do anything extensive, long-running things, you probably need more.
If you really want to get in and learn this and get to work, you're going to probably want to pick one of these max plans. Codex has them, Cursor has them, and so does Claude. I would pick a $100 plan. It's worth it. You don't want to be blocked by it if you can.
I'm focused on Claude right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Claude's great. We are on Claude as a default at Proof.
So it says it's done. It ran through, it did all these things, dev server's running. Now, one of the really cool things about, so Claude Code you can run in a terminal, and people do that. I recommend, oh, look, that actually ran in Sonnet. Did it switch? I thought we were running 4.7. Looks like it switched on me. Or did I do that?
Probably.
I think when I switched from the chat to here, I didn't notice it was on Sonnet 4.6. It actually looks like it ran fine, which is pretty great.
Say 4.6 was better.
4.6 is cheaper.
Yeah.
No,
It's
I'm
usually
sorry.
pretty good.
I'm sorry. Sonnet. So there's two levels, Opus and Sonnet.
Yeah.
Sonnet 4.6 is cheaper. Opus is more expensive.
Let's see whether the server's up. But yeah.
I'm going to switch to 4.7
1
here
million
just so we
tokens,
don't
yeah.
make any mistakes and I'll have it run well here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the preview server. And this is why using one of these desktop things is really great, because it has a built-in browser. And this is actually our web app that's been generated. Let me show you that folder, all the things that, actually I can show you there is a files here. So here's all of the files that were put into that folder. So all of our source code is written here. And so this is based on React, which is going to be the most popular for this sort of thing. And it's a really good setup. Like we've done, in order to do this on your own, you're gonna have to make about 100 decisions. We've baked all those in and just given you a happy path to follow. And you've got it set up and running. And so this is actually the live web app that's now running. It's running in this browser here, but it is actually connected still to my FileMaker file through this MCP connector window. So it's still able to query the FileMaker database and act as though it is running inside of the FileMaker database, which is super helpful, because why this is so amazing is not only can you see this preview right here, but the agent can see it as well. And so it can use this browser. It will start operating it and to check its work and to see if it's functioning properly, and it will see errors and it will correct them, both the ones that show up in the browser, but also the ones that show up in the console and the error log for the browser. So it's done all that. And then it said, look, hey, we got some things. Let's see, here's what we got. What do you want to build? So there's suggested features. It said, hey, let's build a customer list, or how about an invoice dashboard or product catalog? So I'm just going to say, let's build a customer list with contacts and a drill down from the customer list to contacts. Let's have that list searchable, and let's replace the starter page and this query demo page here. And let's just have our customer list be the home page in our app. So one of the great things about voice is you can just stream of conscious. You can repeat yourself, doesn't really matter. The AI is very good at taking what you say and figuring out the intent of what you want to do. And so when I do that, it's going to get to work. And now it's going to cook again for a while as it rebuilds the demo app that we just spin up to let you know everything's working into an app that's actually connected to our FileMaker file. Any other questions so far?
Yes, I have a question, because I have built an in-house system that it's complementary to Keybusiness. I actually started before with our older ERP, so I have hundreds and thousands of records. What kind of limitation do you see for the size of, like,
it's both better and worse because you're going to build the UI that you build typically is much more performant, with one exception I'm going to tell you about in a second. It's much more performant than any of the bizarre and crazy layout calculations and global portal filters that you build into your UIs now, right? In terms of that, like out of the box, without this caveat I'm about to describe, it's actually faster because you're not fetching all the records typically for most of the screens that you build, right? If you have a particular screen that requires 10,000 records or 100,000 records, you're going to have to learn some more advanced techniques. There are ways to do it, but you're going to have to learn some more advanced techniques to do that because it has to fetch all that data and continually streaming it in. And the agent can probably help you build it, but it's going to be, you're going to have to know what to tell it to do. And we'll have documentation on how to do that. But that's really the caveat. If you're building just a searchable list where you type in a few things and you get a list of, you get a list of matches, that's going to be very fast.
Yeah.
If you want to scroll 10,000 records, that is going to be an advanced thing that you're going to have to,
You will need to know how to describe some strategies to the agent to make that faster and easier. But those are the things that I think there's going to be an explosion of learning and sharing around these ideas. And so we're hoping that those practices come forward as these things become more mature.
Notice that there's an error here. It's going to figure out that there's an error and just fix itself.
I will say that if you're looking to jump into this and kicking the tires and trying things out, we do have a community site at community.automatic.cloud for
That's
now.
right.
It's free. Just log on. We'll have a forum for ProofKit and feel free to drop questions, and hopefully people will chime in and offer help and all that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a lot of data to go through, Kim.
Okay.
But just to be clear, we have built web apps that go through hundreds and thousands of rows and deal with data. So it's not that you can't handle it. You just need some strategies, just like anything else. Even in FileMaker, you have strategies to deal with record sizes and big found sets and stuff like that.
And Kim, are you trying to do dashboards? Is that what you're trying to show, or what's your concept with there?
That's what I'm trying to do is build. Exactly. This is what interests me, and I like to do a comparative. Okay, we're in the commercial plumbing business, and our customers, they want to know what they purchased 10 years ago, 15 years ago, because they have to replace the plumbing that's in the building to work. So that's why for us, and as previous, as we call it, it's very necessary. That's why I kind of see this solution. The solution that I built goes back 30 years of purchasing. And that's why I was wondering how it could handle all that.
Yeah,
It'll handle it.
the same sorts of tricks you need to do that, where you build pre-summarized tables, where you do that, where you make summaries for the month and things like that in FileMaker. Those same techniques will work beautifully here. So
Okay.
there are the same sort of schema things you had to do.
I need to stop you for a second, Todd, because I don't know if people miss that. Did you see Claude actually manipulate the browser previews?
Yeah, I'm not doing that, by the way.
Yeah.
It's doing it. All this stuff you're seeing over here, it fixed that bug, and now it's driving around the website, making sure that everything's
It's clicking and testing itself.
Yeah.
But we're not doing this behind the scenes.
Yeah, I
here.
got my hands are up here. So look at it's drilling down, it's figuring out all this stuff. All right. So that's actually the cool part. And then one of the key things that we built is we've given the agents the ability to fix the code themselves without
And that's one of the things that ProofKit brings to the conversation, right? So often there's a very naive way of working with AI agents, and then you're interacting with it, going back and forth and say, oh, fix this and fix that and try this. So the happy path here includes some harness, if you will, to get it to do some of the basic things that you need to do, some QA and to fix issues.
So now we've got search, right? We've got drill down. We have this whole nice little thing built for us. I'll say something about the themes here real quick. This is using Tailwind and ShadCN, and if I have time, maybe I'll show how you can change up the themes really easily and get different looks and feels. But first, just to say, this is pretty nice looking, right? Like you could do this kind of thing in FileMaker, but it would be hard. And you wouldn't get, also this is responsive, right? So this is gonna expand and collapse really well. It would work on mobile, it would work in FileMaker Go. All of those things would work really well to do that. And it just built it, right? So we got ourselves a nice, tasteful looking UI just by giving a few prompts and letting the agents cook.
Yeah, this exists in the browser or in Claude at the moment. And
Yeah.
you're probably thinking,
So
oh,
it's
this is
running
great.
this view, the code is all in this folder here. The Claude is running this dev server that's running this code and displaying it in its own web viewer, if you will. And that web viewer believes it's inside of FileMaker, so it can do all the things it can do from inside of FileMaker. So now the final step is to get this into our FileMaker app so that we don't need Claude anymore. We can just let our users use this beautiful new UI. So to do that, all we have to do, deploy this app to my FileMaker file. And what it's going to do is it's going to take all this code and it's going to bundle it all up into a single giant HTML string. And it's going to shove that into a FileMaker field. And then we're going to display that with a web viewer. Claude is going to do all that for you, so you don't have to know how to do that at all. Claude and the add-on that we added know how to do that.
Now, it's always possible to do this artisanally. You can go and copy and run the command line scripts and all that to build the bundle and copy it into a record and point a web viewer at it. But this is all handled basically
Through Claude.
through Claude. Exactly.
Wow.
So there it is. There's our app.
And proof of life here, like I don't know how many times you build a search with FileMaker, but look at the search that just again, this is green field. We didn't practice this, right? This is Claude doing this.
In fact, I'll say, if you notice, I don't have any chats here because I use a separate Claude account that has no memories. So I have no chats and I clear out the memories.
Yeah.
It doesn't have any pre-runs baked in that it knows about. This is all just based on the MCP server working.
Yeah.
So now this is now just living in FileMaker. It lives in this table ProofKit apps, and you can actually do multiple ones in here, but it's just there. And now your users can come land on this layout. They can search, they can drill in, they can do whatever. And this is a pretty simple UI, but do you want a calendar? Just say you want a calendar. Do you want a Kanban board? Just say you want a Kanban board. Do you want a Gantt chart? Just say you want a Gantt chart. And Claude will build it and it'll put it in your UI. And it will, additionally, it has the ability to build you saw at the beginning, it had a couple different pages up here. If we said, okay, add another page to my app and make it my invoices thing, it would build a nav bar for you across the top. And then you could say, you know what, I'd rather have this on a sidebar. Can you put a nice collapsible sidebar in with my navigation? And it will do that. It'll build all this stuff for you. And you just have to have the taste to know what you want to ask for. And then you're going to have to learn some things. We're not claiming this is going to make you a senior web engineer. It's not. There's things to learn. But what this does is it gives you a happy path to get started. Now you are in an environment you understand, which is FileMaker. You know how to deploy FileMaker. You know how to use it, support it with your customers. We're just saying, okay, but now here's a new way to build the UI for that. And everything else remains the same. So you can take a step down this AI road without having to go the whole way. And so now you can build sales dashboards really simply. You can build all kinds of beautiful dashboards for the customers you have. And very easily, just put this in and you've got these beautiful UIs. And then you get to experiment and build more and do more and learn more and all that stuff.
I'm curious what questions people have at this point.
My question is, the whole point, are we capturing data still in FileMaker and then building the dashboards and the UIs and build everything based off of capturing data still in FileMaker?
Yeah, this is all FileMaker. This is live connected to FileMaker.
So that's the whole point. That's the whole point.
The whole point.
The whole point is still capturing all your data in FileMaker. Your users do not change anything that they're using. when you're generating your dashboards, when you're capturing your data, when you're making everything look pretty and run the reports, you're still capturing the data the same
Exactly.
way.
It's still
You-
in FileMaker.
Yep.
You
There's
can take
no-
advantage of the
Yeah.
data that you already have.
All the scripts that you have, you may have to write wrapper scripts around some of your logic to work with the web viewer, but that's easy to do. And we have templates to do that. We have a script template in here, an example, I think. Yeah, so we have this guy right here. This teaches you how to write. Your code goes in the middle, and then you need to leave the top and the bottom, and then you can write your scripts and do anything you want. There's a few, there are things you have to learn. I don't want to, you're going to have to learn about, I can't change layouts because then my web viewer goes away. So you need to think about, can I use PSOS? Can I open another window and do scripting off screen or
Yeah.
something like that? So you still have to do things like that, but you can do it all. You can write transaction scripts to do it. You can just rely on the execute data API to read and write data to the FileMaker file, or you can use scripts. All that stuff still works. Your tables still work. Your schema's still there. Your relationships still matter. All that is still there. You're just adding a UI layer on top of it.
Hey, Todd, this is Rick. One of the questions I've been pondering, and this goes to this as a modern type of new layout that's just totally kick-ass that we kill for in FileMaker, right? And then there's the classic layout. And is there pretty much an equivalent, if not even that much better, for all of the layout objects like button bars and tabs and portals is what I mean is
Yes.
certainly far better portal equivalents, data grids, and all that kind of stuff.
All
So
that.
This is this is partly what you get with ProofKit, which is we're basically baking in ShadCN, which is like a component library that allows you to do all these things.
Yeah.
So if you go to ShadCN and look at their docs, they have a whole bunch of stuff in here. So and you can look at, you can look at all these things. So if you just tell Claude, hey, I want a chart, it's going to make you a chart using this library. If you say, let's find a fun one here, badges, alert dialogues, button groups, carousels, scroll areas, sheets, sliders, text areas, sidebars, radio groups.
Yeah, so this is a superset of what FileMaker has, what Studio has, and then some.
Yeah. And the other thing is that, so this is the official ShadCN directory, but there are others. There's tons of
tons of different
CN components.
Nice.
And you can find things from, here's one, ShadCN Studio. It has a ton more things.
Yeah.
And these will all work within.
My dream would be that Claris has its own component set that ships with something out of the box, and then you don't have to guess anymore. And it looks very Apple-ish and stuff like that. But this is already very good, and there are over 60 to 100 components that you just get for free. Basically, you don't have to write a single one of them. Just use them.
Wow. And we didn't have to do it inside FileMaker.
That's right.
We didn't have to do
That's
it
right.
inside.
Yeah. You got pick a dates. You got you've got date and time pickers, time input. All this stuff is already done. You don't have to do any of that.
Here's the thing that's really important in this story is that these are battle tested components.
Yeah.
Every time we make a custom component in FileMaker with pixels and layout objects and whatnot, we are rebuilding stuff that's been built a billion times over and over again, and they're always janky, and we have to test them each time, all that, right? So it's like these are layers of leverage that we're applying to this. And you have to get comfortable with a different way of thinking about developing. But man, if you get there, you can do all of this stuff.
So here's another one that's all ShadCN. So this is data grids.
Yeah.
Like all this stuff exists. You just have to ask for it, basically. And you could do something like this. This is actually really important. They're great at reading docs. So if I take this and I paste this in here and say, I want to use the data grid from this page, it'll be like, sure, and it'll do it. It'll just build it. It would replace this with a data grid. It would say, okay, I'll just use this one. I'll do pagination, right?
And companies are going to want their own opinions and their own styles and their own library of things that makes things look like them and align with brand and all that. And that's all possible, right? That's just tweaking CSS and stuff like that, which agents know how to do too. Right?
Dialogues, scroll, all this stuff.
I want to point out one thing though, in case it isn't clear, this is not just read only on the UI stuff. You can edit and make changes that will commit back to FileMaker through this web app that you've built. So it's a whole CRUD flow, right? It's not just, oh, this is a passive dashboard thing and it's all display only.
How about toasts? You want toasts? These things? Bottom right down here. All this stuff. You just have to ask for it. So you got to go and learn about all these components, but then you just ask for it. You just give like, you could say, hey, look on this page. You can actually look at the code. You could paste this in and say, hey, I found this on this page. Can you make this and add it to my thing? So when every time somebody edits a contact record, I get a little toast saying that it was successfully saved. And it will build that for you.
So if I went into AI and said, normally you can walk in there and you say, all right, I want to treat like I'm a kindergartner. So can I go in there and say, can I treat this like I'm Todd Geist?
I don't.
We
there's
may
no
have a
Todd
skill
Geist
for that. We'll
But we
shoot.
actually did, but we literally did bake in. I've been making WebViewer stuff for 16 years,
This is what it is, basically.
and it's baked into this entire thing.
It's incredible.
Yeah. You are getting the Todd Geist skill. With this.
Yeah,
And I just
I'm
want to make
seeing
that
it.
clear.
I can see Todd thinking.
So,
Yeah,
so
no, it's
does
an
anybody
incredible
want to
stuff.
know how much it costs?
Yes.
Well, how much would you pay us? How much would you pay for it?
If I had a job, I'd pay you everything I made.
It's free. Doesn't cost anything.
Wow.
That's what I make.
There you go. Well, you're good. Completely free.
This is gorgeous. This is unbelievable.
We're doing this because we really believe that FileMaker needs to be able to do agentic coding in FileMaker. It's essential. And now with AI, like it used to be, we had a team. We had on our group, we have, I don't know how many engineers we have. We have a bunch. Bunch of them were FileMaker developers, and then some of them were web developers, and those web developers could make web viewer apps. Now our entire team can make web viewer apps. We don't, it's because AI has lowered the bar enough that, and then we have ProofKit to get people started. Everybody can make these apps. And we think that's important for our team, but we also, the ecosystem, now just say it. If you can't agentically code, your time is limited in this space. You will find it increasingly difficult to be able to compete with platforms that allow agents to do the work for you. It will get harder and harder until you can't do it. And so we're doing this because I've been doing FileMaker for 30 years. I'd like to at least, if I get another 10, I can retire. So let's see if we can get it to stick around for the 10 years. So we got to get the whole community doing this way so that everybody can see the benefits. And frankly, doing this inside of FileMaker is a nice and safe way to do this. Yes, it would be great if we could vibe code and agentically code scripts and tables, and we're working on things. And we talked to Claris a lot about this, and we're extremely happy with what Ryan said the other day, and they're taking this very seriously. And I think we'll get there, but we're not even waiting. We're not going to wait until they're able to do some of these things. We're just going to do it as soon as it's possible. We're going to make it possible so that we can move quickly, because this new AI world moves extremely fast. Extremely fast. There's no time to waste.
The biggest risks that I see, the reason we're doing these shows and these tours is that the biggest risks we think to the community and to the platform right now, and it affects us directly, is if you get the feeling like you have to move off FileMaker because you don't have any other choice to do.
Yep.
So.
And by the way, that is happening.
Yep.
You see the reports on social media and Reddit, people talking about moving off of FileMaker so they can do agentic coding.
So Todd, and my message to you all is basically, you don't need to. We're giving you a way to stay extremely relevant in the future.
Every single thing I'm doing, looking for new jobs, says to move away from FileMaker. So this changes everything.
So could you tell Claude to reference a particular layout and rebuild it as a web, and just say, oh, go get this?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's actually important because sometimes you might want to optimize. The Execute Data API uses layouts for the fields. And so you may want to optimize what layout you want to use. So you can set it up exactly the way that you want. No summary fields on it, or no slow calcs, or you put portals on it. It probably, when it built this, here we've got related records. You got the customer record and the contact record. But because I didn't tell it, it probably is making two fetches here. It's probably fetching the customer record and the contact record.
Yeah.
But if I built a layout that had customer info and a portal and then said use that layout, it could make it in one fetch. So yeah, there are things like that.
Just to be very clear, this may be obvious, but I'll state it just for posterity and to make sure it's not lost. We're not building FileMaker layouts in the old way. These are all web layouts, right? So you can't tell ProofKit and Claude to go fix an existing FileMaker based layout. What you can do is recreate it in this mode. And I do that. Yeah. And we all do that. Right. So if it's a little bit tricky because it's sometimes all or nothing, you can't move half a layout. Now, your next question is going to be, I can use half a web viewer in my layout or one component. Why don't I just replace a portal or replace this janky thing that I don't like? Right now, that's still a little bit, you can do it, but it's still a little bit janky in terms of how FileMaker and WebViewer sort of refresh issues around that. It's possible, and we think that something's coming down the road, hopefully, to make that a little easier. But for now, the best experience is going to be a full screen WebViewer layout experience. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't think I showed that layout, just to be super clear. It's that.
Yeah, and another thing while we're on this thing is that, so from a mental model perspective, it's really important to know that we're not injecting anything into a web viewer, right? You guys got that, right? The web viewer is just a presentation layer, just like any old web viewer. It just works the same way. What we're really doing is we're injecting that web code into a store, a data store. In this case, it's a field. And you can actually go look at it. You can go to the table, the field is right there, you can see the web code, right? And then you're just presenting that data like you would any other web viewer object. And so this is literally what we pushed right here. Now you can't handwrite that.
No, it's bundled and minified so that it's as small as it can be. But just to be clear, we have seen no size constraint that's practical at all in terms of how much HTML you can slam in here. The web viewer is extremely optimized for rendering large blocks of HTML. You can put 10 megabits, 20 megabits of HTML in there, and it's not having to download it from a server. It's in your FileMaker file, and it just opens in the web viewer instantly. There's really no problem with the amount of size you put in there. So, but that's what it is. So that's the HTML, and then on that layout, we've got it wrapped in a custom function for reasons which I won't go into too much, but basically that's it. It just is that.
Yeah.
And it's just, we can display that.
And you can
right
thank the long lineage of product managers at Claire's for giving us a wonderful field that can accept very large text files.
Yeah, 2 terabytes or whatever.
2 terabytes, whatever it is.
Or 2 gigabytes, I think a text field is limited to.
Is it? No, gigabytes, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, it's not lost on me that my very first feature has had this kind of legs, and it's so gratifying because I got a lot of flack in the beginning. Why would you want to put a web browser in a database? And I said, I thought that too. So I went on a walk and I thought about it. That was in the early days. Imagine that the data you have in your database can drive what's going on at a website, but this is that on steroids and then some, and it's still just the web viewer object.
Yep.
So it's all your fault, Rick.
Yeah.
Rick has a lot to do with this.
I mean, it was important for setting the stage. The part of the problem, it's taken a while for everybody to catch on to the power of it. And a big part of it was the Internet Explorer had a really long shadow.
Yeah.
And it really screwed with web development for a long time. And then in the FileMaker world, the shadow was longer because it wasn't until 1906 that we got rid of Internet Explorer. And once we got rid of that, and on Windows, it ships with Edge, and on Mac, it ships with Safari, then we could really do modern web development. So 19.6, which was what, 2022 or something, 2023, was really when the power was unlocked. But you had to be a good web dev to do it. Now with AI, you don't. You'll have to learn, but you can get started and just get cooking on this stuff without having to already learn all the hard knocks that we had to learn over the years.
And it's not just the web viewer. That's certainly foundational to this experience. You see, we're using execute SQL, and I remember Rick sitting down in the room with you talking about this feature in some DEF CON back in Phoenix or whatever. I think my point is, this is leveraging a lot of the layers that have come before us in FileMaker, right? So it's not like this is only possible because we're building on top of all the capabilities that already exist.
To wrap up, you've got docs here. This is still technically a preview. I think Eric, I don't know if Eric's still here. We had an issue with non-Mac OS Tahoe installers. Hopefully that's been fixed, but if not, we'll fix it very soon.
Yes, that is already fixed.
Okay, good. Eric is there. Great. So that's fixed. I actually saw another bug in the add-on, Eric. I don't know if you noticed it, but I did. We'll fix that. The good news is that the add-on, when a new version of the add-on ships, you can actually just go in and delete the old one. You run the installer, go in, delete the old one, say remove all tables and fields, and it will delete everything, and then you just can add it back, the new one, and then you can just republish your app and it will be fine. So updating is pretty simple. You run the installer, swap out the add-on, you're good to go.
Todd, well, you had your hand up?
I did. I got a couple of questions. I'm not sure which one to ask first, so I'll go with this one.
Yep.
Amazing. Bravo, first of all. The question is, you've built this dashboard or view that you saw, and customer loves it. They use it for a couple of years, and then they come back and say, hey, our business model's changed, or we need to change this ad. What does that process look like? You keep those files safe somewhere, or can you pull that HTML out of?
You actually could now with AI. You could do it with AI, but that's not how you should do it. So what this is, very good question. What you get to do is use GitHub to store and version control all of your code.
Or Bitbucket or whatever. But
whatever you want to use version control.
But so here's the thing. You are actually getting version control as part of this too, just because you have text-based files that you can version.
Yeah.
So you can save a version of what we just built and then iterate on it. And then you can actually share it with other devs and they can iterate on that too. And it'll be in a repo somewhere and agents can read that and you'll have a file and you'll just pick up from where it left off. It doesn't need, it's not like agents are not humans, right? They don't forget. they just go back to the file with all the plans in there and just say, oh, I understand what this is all about. I'm going to just pick up from where it left off.
Yep.
So just to it's very important. If people haven't used Git and they've heard of Git, they're probably scared. But the really good news is, who's very good at Git?
Agents.
What?
Agents are very good at Git. So you don't have to say, so by the way, when we set this up, we set it up with a Git repo. It's already in there. And so what you'll have to do is go to GitHub, create an account, and we'll have documentation on how to go through this. But if you have a GitHub account, then you're already there. You just commit that code to a project in GitHub, and you can just tell your agent to do it, and it'll do it.
You don't even need a GitHub account to do any of this versioning thing. You just need Git on your local computer. Now,
you can use Git
you should
anywhere.
have a GitHub account so you can have a remote backup basically of your stuff. But the moment you have Git on your computer, you're versioning.
Yeah. Or if you want to go old school, just put it in Dropbox.
Yeah, people do that.
It doesn't matter, but your code. But here's the thing: what did we say for 30 years about FileMaker? Wouldn't it be great if we could separate UI from data?
Yeah. Yep.
We just did.
Yep.
And one other thing, just on this topic, I know Todd, you had another question. Mental model shift, I think, is necessary. We're used to very large binary files with FP12, the FileMaker file, right? You think of shipping like megabytes of stuff around with the data and all that. Text files are really tiny. This whole project is probably several K with all the libraries and whatnot that you're downloading, right? So things are fairly lightweight. And you'll be surprised by how much you can keep on your computer just building this way.
Yeah. I have hundreds of projects
hundreds
that are built like this. And I keep them, have a copy on my computer, but usually I just download I go to GitHub and I check out a version of whatever app and I work on it. And when I'm done with whatever changes I want to make, I put it back up as a pull request. And the good news is you get a choice to actually do things like version control, automated testing, all that stuff is now possible because again, we're in the sort of regular web development world here with all the tools and capabilities that has. You don't have to do it, but you now get a choice that you can actually do it and do it well. So you can actually know who committed what change to the UI when. Not because you made a note in a FileMaker file, because that's how you do it today. There's no other way to do it, but because the person who committed that to the repo, their email address is tied to it along with the date and along with exactly the changes that were made to that UI as when that commit happened. So version control is good, and that's how you do it.
Okay.
Another question, Todd?
I had another question, but I don't know, this might be a whole nother session.
We'll come back.
Yeah, I have to have you come back. Exactly. So maybe just some preliminary thoughts, just thinking about it from a consultant standpoint. Okay, if I'm going to build this, what we just saw with that interface, the drill down and all of that. Okay, I'm going to charge client X amount of dollars.
This is what happens once you realize how good agents are. You go, oh no.
Yeah. For my time, it's like, well, I charge them the 10 hours it would have taken me to make it, but I'm not going to charge them the 5 minutes it just took me to make it. So do you guys see a switch to now where instead of doing essentially time and material, it's more like value pricing, where we're going to add this feature to your system and what's it worth to you, and then that's what gets charged?
This is going to take a lot more time than 5 minutes to answer, right? But I would love to come back and talk about this because this is a topic that's very close to my heart. I think I'll just tease it. Tease is the wrong way. I'll just maybe foreshadow some of my thoughts here quickly. Like I think we're all trying to figure out what makes sense in terms of pricing, and I think there's going to be some blend of value, some blend of T&M. I'm not in the camp of saying, oh, value pricing is the only way to go, that kind of thing. Because I think that if you compare, we're competing in the open market. So any developer is going to have to compete at the same level playing field, right? The only thing is if you aren't an agentic developer, then you're comparing you're comparing a 100x efficient developer to your FileMaker traditional artisanal coding style, and you're going to get beat on time and materials. You're going to get beat on value. You're going to get beat on all the metrics that matter, right? So at least now you have a chance. If you want to compete on T&M, you can still be on a level playing field with people competing on T&M. But if you have a better value story, I think you can also sell a better value story with that. So I'll leave it at that. And I think this is a deeper topic, but I think that the first thing is to not get stuck in artisanal development, because you're not going to win the battle.
Yeah, it's not this is not something you can pretend is not happening. I'll say to add two quick things to that. One is the entire industry is trying to figure this out. So this is not a FileMaker thing. Everybody's trying to figure this out. The second thing is what we've discovered is writing the code ends up being pretty easy. Trying to figure out what to do now becomes much more challenging because you can literally do anything. This ends up manifesting in a lot of ways. You can try a whole bunch of different things that you never would have gotten a chance to try before, right? This is too much. But now if you have an idea for a new UI and you think, okay, I got to design that UI, get sign off on the design from the customer, and then go spend 2 weeks implementing it. Now you can instead come up with 3 or 4 or 5 different designs and design all of them, do them all, and come back and say, okay, here's 3 different or 5 different options. What do we think about these? And then you may take parts of each of those things and go back and do that. So I think what it does is it just moves where you spend your time from there's not this is gone. This is gone. No typing. You're not billing for that, but you're still billing for thinking and design and systems and problem solving, working with your customers, collaborating. All that is still essential. In fact, again, everybody can do the implementation. There's no value in being able to generate a piece of code for the code's sake, like there used to be. Once you got something to work, that had value.
Yeah.
Not really. What has value now is that plus everything that you bring to solve a particular problem for that customer. And that's it.
I think there's also some implications for long-term customer retention. As we all know, you have customers that you've had for a long time and are good customers, and there may be things they wanted you to do, but they don't have the money to do it because of how much time it would take. Now you can crank some stuff out that's pretty low cost to you and add some value that wows them, and that's that much more chance to hold on to that customer in the long term. So I think there's plenty of angles here, especially if you've got customers that have lived in the traditional FileMaker world, and all of a sudden there's some stuff you can do. Think about the kick-ass reporting you can give them, and maybe some of it's just a loss leader. Takes you half an hour to do it and say, boom, here's the layout. What about this? And holy crap, give me more.
Time to value should be much more compressed relative to the old way, right? So I think that's worth something. But the other thing I would also say is that market expectations of quality are also going to increase.
Yeah.
If the standard way of seeing a good user experience, if what Todd just did in 20 minutes there is now the new baseline, then the whole world's going to expect that as just table stakes. So the bar is shifting in all of this conversation, right?
The support and maintenance, ongoing support and maintenance of a project is still quite challenging.
It's still challenging, still needed.
We see that the work has shifted. It's moving away from typing functions or picking script steps from a script list. It's moving away from that, or building a layout by hand. But there's still plenty to do, plenty to do in terms of actually solving real problems and doing it safely and securely. Because you got to remember also, this is serious. The attack surface, the cybersecurity, the hacking, all of this stuff is getting extreme, and it's only going to get worse. So that's going to be part of it. You're going to have to be able to do this and do it safely. Otherwise, you're just going to be leaving your customers open for bad outcomes. So basically, we have to adopt some new skills, but they're all skills that are based in the same skills we've always had, which is solving problems. And what we're hoping is that we can open the platform that we've always used to that same experience, so we don't have to upskill everything at once. We can upskill parts of it, right? And then we can see where that takes us. But yeah, that's it.
So you still focusing on LLMs locally, or are you doing your own LLMs or with Claude?
No, not yet. Right now, so that was all Claude, which is going to be Claude Code only works with Anthropic models. I think there's a real possibility for local models being viable, but they aren't now. You're going to hear from people, they want private AI, they want private models, it's way too expensive. It's way too expensive.
Could change in the future.
It could change.
It will change.
But right now,
probably.
to get something like a Claude model that you want to run on your own infrastructure, if you're going to buy the hardware, it's 25 grand. If you're going to buy it per month, it's 2,500 a month.
Yeah.
It's just hugely expensive to do. That may change. And Apple, interestingly, for the Apple people out there, Apple may have an interesting hardware play there in the future. We'll have to see what these Mac M5 studios that are supposed to come later this year.
Can't wait.
But right now, and especially as you're learning, I just have to say, use the frontier models as you're learning.
Yeah, I'm focusing on Claude. So
Yeah, it's a good choice. It's a very good choice.
All right. This has been great, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Anybody else have any final questions for Todd or Ernest?
well, I could sit here and talk to Todd for about another 3 hours.
We should just do that, Todd. We should just have a 4-hour workshop.
I think we actually probably will do some kind of office hours or hangout
Just
on a
a-
Friday afternoon to talk about these things, because there's a lot we didn't cover. Like again, we're not making you an expert with this. We're giving you an on-ramp, and we're giving you a way to get some gains quickly. But there's a lot of things you got to learn.
And candidly, we want to know if we are headed in the right direction. Is this exciting? Does this make you feel like
Extremely
it's worthwhile?
Extremely exciting. I've been focusing on this Claude stuff and trying to learn new stuff. This is amazing. This is perfect.
Great.
That's great feedback. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us. I know
Appreciate
we're
it.
running a little long, but I hope to see you all in some coding agent experience and some town hall with Todd and myself at some point.
You can download this. Like I said, we're still in preview, so expect there to be some rough edges on the docs, but you can download it and play around. And there's good docs, and there's a link to the community here where you can ask questions about ProofKit if you get stuck, or just ask Claude. Point it at the docs. You can come in here, you can find something that looks like it might be right and say, oh, let me open this in Claude, and it will automatically know the page to search for the answer. Or open in ChatGPT, and you'll be able to ask questions about this page, for example. So use the AI.
All right.
So we have a few things to share here as we wrap up tonight's meeting. A couple of announcements for you. The first is Ryan McCann, who is the CEO at Claris, shared an important announcement back on May 5th, and that is how Claris is building for what comes next. And it's just framing how Claris views AI, FileMaker's place in that world. So it's a lot of information. You want to check it out. You can see the link there to the Claris website, to that blog article, if you would like to check it out for yourself. A second announcement that we have here is that the Claris Community Live events continue in the month of May. Now they have 2 dates scheduled right now. So May 14th is OData for FileMaker developers. You can check that out. And also on May 28th, agentic development with FileMaker, which ties in somewhat with some of the stuff we saw tonight with Proof. So you can find both of those things at claris.com/events. They are featured events on that page, but then it also lists all the other events that are happening around the community of FileMaker developers. We asked a couple of survey questions related to our April meeting. The first one was inspired by Zero Weight's FileMaker Performance Energize presentation. What is your current or preferred FileMaker server hosting setup? And as you can see there, the overwhelming majority like to have on-premise hardware where they can manage their servers and see where their data lives. There's the other options that we had. A hybrid approach did get 1 vote. So as we think more of off-site backup, that might become more important. And because I could show it in a graph, this is what that graph is going to look like. All right, our second question, how was Dawn's presentation celebrated Apple's incredible 50-year journey? So we asked which of these Apple milestones or products do you consider the biggest game changers? Asked people to select all that apply. So you can see that the introduction of the iPhone as well as the Macintosh were tied at the top with 4 votes apiece. And then we have the iMac G3, iPod and iTunes, iPad coming in, Apple Silicon. The M series chips received a few votes, but as we look forward to the Studio with the M5 chip, what that might mean for some of the AI stuff we're able to do, that might collect a few more votes in a few more months. All right, and just because I could show that in a graph, here you go, what that looked like. All right, and then our last question, since we were in the month of April in the spirit of Easter, if your FileMaker development approach were an Easter egg hunt strategy, which one best describes you? So we had a few strategists, we had a planner, we had an overthinker. Unfortunately, we did not have anybody that wanted to share their Easter candy. And finally, this is what that looks like here on a chart. Again, just because I could. All right, so our next meeting will take place on June 10th. This is a departure from our normal first Wednesday of the month. It's actually going to be on the second Wednesday of June, and that's to just make sure the schedules line up and everything. And we're pleased to announce that Rick Kalman from Claris is going to be joining us. Rick has been a regular attender of our meetings, but he will be here in an official capacity to share some of the news as well as what's new from Claris here next month. So you want to be here for that. A few other important dates. The Full Access Conference is taking place August 6th through the 10th. So you want to make note of that. It's going to be held once again at the Jesuit Retreat Center in Los Altos, California. And as someone who was fortunate enough to be able to attend last year's event, it was a great conference. I'm glad I'm going to be able to be back there, and certainly encourage everyone to check it out and see if it might fit into your schedule. You can get more information there at fullaccess.us is the website. There currently is still an early bird period, so you can sign up and get a little bit of a discount. And also that price is inclusive. So it's going to include the conference, your meals, as well as your room. And if you live in the area, there's also a commuter option that you can consider. Related to that, we're making another schedule change for our August meeting. Normally, we do not meet in July because that first Wednesday is always very close to the holidays. But because the August meeting is right before the full access conference, and we want to allow people to be able to travel without having to miss the meeting, we're actually going to go ahead and move that August meeting from the first Wednesday of August to that last Wednesday in July, which puts it on July 29th. So please make a note of that change here in a couple of months. And then lastly, I just want to remind everybody that Star Wars, The Mandalorian and Grogu flies into theaters on May 22nd. So you want to circle that on your calendars as well. This is the way. All right, so thank you for everyone that was able to join us here tonight. And thank you for everyone that's joining us online via this recording. So we're happy to have you here. A special thank you goes out to Todd Geist and Ernest Koe from Proof Systems and Humans for joining us for this incredible presentation and also introducing us to this incredible tool they're making available to the FileMaker community, ProofKit. And lastly, thank you to Teresa and Thomas Makwa with Profile Developers for sharing their Zoom meeting space with us and helping facilitate this online portion of the meeting. There is a post-meeting survey. You can find it on the Cross IT website if you'd like to check that out. And so your votes get counted for our next survey, next meeting. And that's all we have. So until next time, be safe, and we'll see you. Take care.